Hey guys, I am about to be converting this rock right here into a bird bath. And we're gonna get after it. We're gonna make a really cool bird bath, and we're gonna put some planters so there's some space to put some plants growing out of these rocks as well. All right, let's get to it. Keeping everything wet keeps the drill bits from overheating and melting. I'm using a diamond hole saw bit to make overlapping circles here, which I will chisel out afterwards. At this point, this has taken me about a half an hour so far. The next step is going to be chiseling out all of these little circles, and then we're going to do it again. I have my drill on the hammer setting, and I'm using a carbide tip masonry bit before I move on to the second layer. And if you want to try something like this yourself, I'll put links to everything that I use in the description. I'm just repeating the process for the second layer, so let's go ahead and skip a bit. Once I got to this part right here, I decided to speed the process up a little bit with a hammer and chisel. And this is where I almost completely ruined this project. So this just happened. Totally busted. However, fortunately it's still intact. This is either a problem or something that we're going to turn into an opportunity. I'll show you what I'm going to come up with here in just a moment. I'm no geologist, but it seems like this rock was composed of two separate layers, and the split occurred between those two layers when I was chiseling it out. After I remove the rest of the material from the piece in my hand, I'm going to rejoin the top layer to the bottom layer. And then I'm going to propose a totally new aspect to the project to my client and hope that she likes it. Before I join the two pieces back together, I'm going to create a space to add some plants. On the one hand, this is a ton of work, but it's also quite satisfying for me to watch a piece like this come together. And if you're feeling adventurous and want to try something like this yourself, all of the bits and tools that I use will be linked in the description. And for example, this little diamond grinder ball is essential for smoothing out all the rough edges. Fortunately, I only have to glue two pieces back together. I'm starting with this little one here, using E6000. This is some of the stone dust from grinding out the inside of the rock, and I collected and dried it so that I could patch it into the crack, and it bonds really nicely to that E6000. I repeated the same process for the big piece. And after gluing it together, I squeezed extra glue into all of the cracks and packed in stone dust on top of it. So perhaps the most important lesson here is to not try to speed things up with brute force, which is what ended up breaking the rock in the first place. I guess the second lesson is that if you save the stone dust, you can glue anything back together and make it look like one piece again. Or maybe we should just go with things that were once broken, with enough love and attention, can become even more beautiful in the end. Maybe that applies to humans too. What I didn't realize when I was drilling it out, and the reason that it broke, is because there was a significant gap between the two layers of the rock. So what I'm doing here is filling in that gap with some of these broken pieces, and then gluing them into place. And in the end, the piece will be much stronger than when I first started, much more beautiful, and completely waterproofed, which is perfect for a bird bath. Well, that was fun, but now let's take it to the next level. What I have in the bowl here are some river pebbles, and I have some 2-part epoxy here. The epoxy is going to serve two functions. First, it's going to seal any cracks around the inside of the stone. And second, we're going to use it to glue all these little river pebbles into place around the perimeter of the inside of the bowl. After removing the loose rocks, I flipped the bird bath over to attach this little stone foot to the bottom of it in order to help it sit level. And now only 2 steps remain. This is 2-part super clear tabletop epoxy. As per the instructions, I combine both parts together and stir for 8 minutes. To add blue pigmentation, I'm using 3 different colors of mica powder. I'll link everything I used in the description. I'm hoping that by using 3 different tones of blue, when the epoxy settles, it will create layers or ripple-like effects in the epoxy. But I've had mixed results with this technique in the past, so I guess we'll have to wait and see how it turns out in the end. After pouring, I use a cheap disposable brush to paint epoxy all the way around the inside of the rock to completely water seal it, and then use my heat gun to pop the bubbles. While the epoxy is drying, I want to make sure dust doesn't get in it. So as you can see, I use an incredibly sophisticated method to do this. One day later, here's the moment of truth. I am super thrilled with how this turned out. I have awesome cells in the epoxy, it creates an amazing effect, and it really doesn't even look half as cool on camera as it does in person. At this point, there's just one final step before it's ready for my client to pick up. After covering the drain holes with fiberglass mesh tape, it's time to add some plants. Using a very rocky, fast-draining soil mix, I'm adding some kalanchoe plants. Kalanchoe fichenkoe here on the edge, and some kalanchoe luciae or petal plants in the front planter. And another type of kalanchoe that, while I do not remember its specific scientific name, I do know that I like them. For good measure, I scooted these kalanchoe fichenkoe over and added some more of these in the edge, just to create some contrast. So, in spite of the mishaps along the way, this is how it all turned out in the end. Personally, I have to say that I'm pretty happy with it. But I want to know what you think too. So, let me know in the comments. And of course, I wouldn't be mad if you give the video a thumbs up or share it with your friends. And in case you haven't heard me say it before, don't forget to remember that the life force inside you is a spark of divine energy that makes you beautiful and unique and connects you to every other living thing on the surface of this planet. Maybe if we remember that, we can help bring out the best in each other. Okay, until next time.